Understanding Aries men. How would it feel to step into the world of Aries? The truth is that few people ask themselves this question, because not everyone dares to face them. The fact is that this first fire sign carries the energy that starts the Zodiac and then fills it with intensity. To understand Aries, you must remember that dynamism, action, and sometimes impatience are traits that define them. For example, imagine the typical situation where you're at a restaurant with your group of friends. The food takes a while to arrive, but everyone acts relaxed because they know it will come eventually. Except Aries. He's sharing one of his adventure stories, but there's a small anxiety gnawing at him. Until finally, he exclaims, "If I knew it would take this long, we would have gone to another restaurant." That's why, to truly understand an Aries, you have to think like an Aries. If there's one thing they are clear about, it's their desire. Join us to get to know this controversial sign, its traits, and, of course, the best way to understand him. Traits of Aries men. As mentioned earlier, one of the most characteristic traits of this sign is impatience. But don't be fooled or focus only on the negative. Aries natives, especially men, have many traits, both good and bad, that simply make them who they are. Independent. If there's one thing Aries dislikes, it's having to depend on others. They are very capable of focusing on what they do, see also egocentric, but they're also good at providing for themselves. Generally, they need nothing from anyone and manage their emotions well, although there is one thing that works against them, and it is impulsive. One of the less positive traits of Aries men is their impulsive way of acting. For instance, in an awkward moment when no one says anything, the Aries will always speak up and say what everyone was thinking, but no one dared to say. And he does it without mincing words. Proactive. Going back to positive traits, our dear Aries friends stand out for their proactivity. When a problem arises, it's usually the Aries who looks for one solution after another. Even if some seem crazy, he doesn't waste time deliberating, he just acts. Although he's not very comfortable when things get too egocentric. The movement that defines this sign often makes him focus on himself. This is good because he's very self-aware, but up to a point, it can become selfish when he stops considering how others feel. Likes and dislikes of Aries men. Now, we've talked about how Aries men are and behave, but what about what they feel? To understand that, we need to know what things are their weaknesses and what things they simply can't tolerate. Aries men love being recognized for their own worth. People arriving exactly on time. They secretly enjoy conflicts or small arguments. Expressing their point of view. Sometimes enjoying teasing others. When things happen exactly as they want, quickly. Aries men hate being contradicted. People being too sensitive or emotional. Things that are stuck or not flowing. Moments that require patience. They hate waiting. Jealousy triggers. They hate anyone checking out their girl. Having their creative flow interrupted. Conversations that go nowhere. People with hidden intentions. Strengths and weaknesses of Aries men. The good news is that the more we explore the characteristics of this dynamic fire sign, the closer we get to truly understanding them and knowing how to handle situations that may arise with them. For example, understanding their strengths and what challenges them most. Strengths. Despite being a bit egocentric, they have a good heart. They always try, through their sometimes wild actions, to help. They don't beat around the bush. If you want decisive action, go to Aries. They are very determined and do not compromise their personal values, which is admirable. Weaknesses. Sometimes it's hard for them to put themselves in someone else's shoes. They often don't register other people's emotions and can be hurtful. Aggressiveness is common because their emotions are intense. They can become overly individualistic, not caring much about others. They struggle to work in teams, which often leaves them alone. Their dark side and secrets. There's a side that Aries rarely reveals. Like everyone, this sign has secrets and doesn't let just anyone see them. Beneath the layer that makes them appear brave and confident, a lot of insecurity can hide. For example, when someone questions what they say, There's always the typical Aries who presents their ideas as absolute truths, even though in reality, no one holds the absolute truth. If someone dares to contradict them, the first reaction is usually anger. How dare someone disagree with me? However, while listening, Aries may realize that the other idea isn't so bad. The big secret is that they almost never admit this truth. They act indifferent and pretend not to care, but inside, insecurity awakens. Also, Aries men struggle to show their emotional side. They often strongly identify with one of their archetypes, the warrior. So much so that it becomes difficult for them to step out of that role and express their feelings, which, believe me, they do have. Insecurity is a feeling we all experience. Only not everyone finds it easy to show vulnerability and face it. Beyond being a warrior, the Aryan archetype also resembles a child who feels very brave, but carries a sensitive heart that rarely shows itself. Even if the Aries in your close circle, or you yourself if you were born under this sign, has the quickest temper and often say hurtful things, always remember that one of their darkest sides is not being able to properly manage their emotions due to their marked impulsivity. How they handle different areas of life. Family. Aries is that typical child who excels in school but also finds trouble. They never stop seeking excitement, sometimes because they like to fight, other times because they can't keep quiet. Their family loves them because they bring action, dynamism, and sometimes a little chaos. Work. He's a great colleague. Even though teamwork is challenging for him, he adds spontaneity and energy to the project. He's always speaking up and sharing his point of view. Planning isn't his strong suit. He prefers to jump in and get things done, which can be very valuable in certain areas. Personal goals. This might be one of the hardest areas for an Aries man to control. He lives focused on the here and now, rarely planning long-term. The key is finding balance between both. Romantic relationships of Aries men. In this area, our dear Aries friend behaves like a true charmer. He's a great lover and maybe a bit of a womanizer. However, when a woman truly wins his heart, rest assured he'll only have eyes for her, and he'll show it in the most exaggerated and tender ways possible. At times, you may feel that the Aryan heartthrob you fell in love with doesn't seem entirely committed. Let me tell you this. Commitment is not exactly the word that best describes the natives of this sign, but there is a huge difference between the womanizing Aries and the Aries who is truly in love. It's true that at first they are still searching or conquering simply because they have a magnetic energy. But the more serious things get between you, you'll realize if he's the one. Because when Aries falls in love, he shows it with gestures that may even seem a bit exaggerated, and with a lot of passion. Bonus, spicy fact to know him fully. Finally, what's the key to truly knowing and managing this sign? Remember, flattering his ego never hurts, and sometimes giving him a taste of his own medicine works. That is, to handle him well, you need to set firm boundaries just as he does, but without forgetting to recognize his value and all that he brings into your life. Thank you for watching the video, and let us know your thoughts in comments box below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get all the updates.